Welcome to Bold Voices, a production of the Community Foundation of Broward, where we explore Broward's biggest issues, get to know some of the people and organizations creating a bold impact in our community, and take a deeper dive into the world of local philanthropy with the experts at the Community Foundation of Broward. And now, it's time to be bold.
Welcome to Bold Voices, a production of the Community Foundation of Broward. I'm your host, Ellen Jaffe. One of the things that we're going to reveal to you today is a new project getting underway, the Reimagining of Huizenga Park. That is to come. First, it's a pleasure to welcome one of our bold community builders, Steve Hudson. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Ellen. How are you?
I am great. It's a pleasure to talk to you. You have such a history that I really want to dig into and share with the listeners. You're the chairman and CEO at Hudson Capital Group, a private investment firm founded in 1997. You and your father started this together. Together, you've been called visionaries for your work developing downtown Broward and turning Broward County into a thriving community in which to live, work, and play. What can you tell us about that beginning point in 1997 when you went into business with your father? What was that vision?
Well, it all just kind of comes together, right? You don't start off saying, I'm going to change the world. So if I may, I'm going to go back further. My family came here in the early 50s. Parents went to Fort Lauderdale High. We have a deep relationship in this community. I was born and raised here at Broward General, and I haven't really gone too far. I love this community. It's truly the best place to live, and then to be able to work and play in this area just is awesome. So going back now to Hudson Capital, I've done a lot of different things in my career, always with my father, and through Blockbuster Video and Public Services, which is the waste hauling companies. So back when we started Hudson Capital Group, it really was to get involved in some startup companies, real estate holdings, and it just kind of evolved from there. And we were involved in the yacht brokerage business, which Fort Lauderdale, the yachting capital of the world.
Sure.
So that was a lot of fun. I traveled all over the world to different boat shows in Dubai and all throughout. So great history there. And then we started doing some more real estate. Got heavily involved in downtown Fort Lauderdale, the county seat. And I've been doing quite a bit of development now through the last probably 15 years.
Are there particular projects that you've worked on that are really near and dear to your heart that you're most proud of?
Well, that would be in two buckets because I really wear a lot of hats. But it's the for-profit, let's say. Mm-hmm. So what I do through Hudson Capital and what pays the bills. And then there's the other philanthropy, which I know you're going to get to.
Yeah, let's talk about the for-profit. Let's talk about what Hudson Capital has done to really renovate Broward County and re-energize it.
We're heavily involved in Flagler Village. And we were not the first people there, but we have a 5-acre tract that we are developing into a full mixed-use area. We had a parcel near the convention center that now is going to be a world-class 850-room convention center hotel. So that's quite transformative for our tourism industry. We've acquired a lot of parcels and then assembled those to be able to do much greater things. And a great example of that would be on the 3rd Avenue, just south of Tarpon River. We acquired over 21 years. It took about 7 parcels, and it was 3.5 acres that we sold to the U.S. government for the federal courthouse.
Yes.
That's a proud moment because there was talk of moving the courthouse to the west, some of the suburbs. It's important to have that federal courthouse in downtown, and that's where the county courthouse is and the jail and all of that. So it now creates a real legal center just south of the river. My father told me when I first bought the first parcel in 96, he told me, son, it's going to take you 20 years to develop, to acquire all of that. It took me 21.
Okay.
So,
he was almost right on there.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you learned from your father in business? Let's start with that.
Well, because I worked with him for so long, I really started working with him in 91. He was driven, but he also knew how to have fun. And that went throughout all of the different business dealings that he was involved in. And so he would say, if you're working and you're not having fun, then what's the point? So one of the big mantras that my father taught me, and I am now teaching my kids, is work hard, play hard. When you have kids and all they're doing is playing around and they're getting into high school, and I said, you can't just play hard. You got to work hard too. And by the same token, you just can't work hard either. with no play. It truly needs to be that balance so you have a good balance in your life.
That's such an important lesson, and it's wonderful that you're passing it on to your children. And we're going to talk more about how you're involving them with the philanthropy. But in part of the hard work, one of your pet projects has the name Huizenga attached to it. Can you tell me about that and how that came to be?
So the story goes back 60 years ago when the Downtown Development Authority, the DDA, acquired tracts of land in the downtown, which was quite blighted at the time. It had its heyday in the 20s, 30s, 40s and that. And there were no residents downtown. The tallest building was about 8 stories. So the DDA had the foresight to go out, purchase tracts of land. One of them is where the Broward Performing Arts Center sits today, Museum of Discovery and Science, Esplanade Park. DDA still owns Huizenga Park. And that park was named after my uncle, Wayne Huizenga, 20 years ago. Now, 20 years ago, again, no downtown residents. It was built as a festival park. And we had the St. Patrick's Day parade, we had concerts, we had the start and end of the 5K runs and the dog walks and all of that. Well, our downtown truly has evolved. We have 25,000 downtown residents now. That creates a completely different downtown than the original of, hey, let's keep people in downtown after work, bring them in for the weekends. Now that park is 25,000 residents. It's their backyard. It's their outdoor living room. Right, so the park is utilized at all hours of the day. So it's time to reimagine the park.
So what is the new Huizenga Park going to be? What's it going to look like?
Instead of a large band shell and just a massive green lawn, we still have a very large green area, but it's really a collection more of outdoor rooms. So you have an area that is good for kids to play. You've got an area that has a setup for people just to sit outside with their laptops or read a book. We're putting in a restaurant, and that will be right on the waterfront. It's a fabulous restaurant that has views of the river, but also views of the park. And that's important to activate the park for all hours of the day. So people feel safe and comfortable. There will be public restrooms that will be attended to, clean, tidy. I'd be happy for my wife to go in there with kids. I mean, it's creating a safe environment. And so this park now becomes, as I stated, everybody's backyard, their living room, their outdoor dining room. It's a park for all, forever.
Will it still be available for those 5Ks and the St. Patrick's Parade, all of those key events that we're used to having annually in Broward County?
It will, and it will bring people to downtown, and it will be still the start and stops. It just has a different focus, but it is still, again, it's the community's park. It's everyone's park.
Right. I can picture it, and I can picture it as if I've been to some place on vacation and I found a park in a downtown area and I sat down with a book and just kind of looked around and marveled. And that's what this will be in downtown Fort Lauderdale. It sounds marvelous. What is a timeline that you're looking at for the development and the completion of the new Huizenga Park?
The DDA has been working on these plans for about 2 years. We are looking to break ground in the summer of 23 and be done end of 24. It's a $15 million project. We've secured almost $1 million from the state of Florida and $5 million from the city of Fort Lauderdale. And then with the restaurant lease that we have and the bonding capability of DDA, we're able to raise another $5 million. So right now we have about a $5 million gap, and I am chair of the Huizenga Park Foundation. So we're raising that $5 million. The Huizenga family and the Hudson family have committed $2 million of that $5 million. And now we have other sponsors on board. BBX Capital was our first corporate sponsor. We have many individual sponsors. So we're getting there. People are understanding the importance of the investment in a downtown park and what it means to a thriving downtown.
If someone is listening right now and says, I want to be part of that, I want to support that project, it means a lot to Broward County. Is there a way they can contact you?
Well, I'm glad you asked. So please go to huizengapark.org. All the information's there. There's naming opportunities. There's renderings. It's a great website. Give you all the information you want. And happy to answer any questions.
And in case anyone is not familiar with the spelling of Huizenga, which we've seen in multiple places over the years, Huizenga park.org. Now, you mentioned the Hudson family. You have your own foundation, the Hudson Family Foundation. This is you, your sister, Holly, is part of this. How did that begin? What was the thinking when you began the Hudson Family Foundation?
Our family foundation was started in 1999, and it was really a estate planning tool. And we've used our foundation to do great things. Most of our philanthropy is here in Broward. Again, it's where I was born and raised, both myself and my sister. So the two of us guide the funding for that. And we support a lot of programs through our private foundation.
Obviously, bold is a word that fits you and your family. Huizenga Park renovation reimagination is a very bold project. How did the Family Foundation become connected with the Community Foundation of Broward, and why?
Originally, the Hudson Family Foundation was, and it still is, a separate entity, and then we had invested in the Community Foundation of Broward. They were kind of two different paths, if you will. And there was a program called One Broward, and we helped fund some different initiatives here at the Community Foundation of Broward. And then about 2018, when the Be Bold campaign was just starting to get rolling, we decided that we wanted to be community builders, the Hudson Family Foundation.
Both rhetorically and literally.
And literally.
Love that, okay.
So we invested $5 million in 2018. We moved that money from our private foundation into the Community Foundation of Broward. So it's the Hudson Family Fund at the Community Foundation of Broward, which we use both our private foundation and the Community Foundation of Broward, our Hudson Family Fund, for different initiatives, which bucket they fit and they fill and whatnot. So our commitment to Huizenga Park is actually through the Hudson Family Fund at the Community Foundation of Broward.
Now, do you have other areas that you're focused on that are really important to you personally in your giving, in your philanthropy?
I'll start with my sister, who is heavily into the arts. And so that is very important to her. Funding Arts Broward, Museum of Art, to just name a few, things like that. So that is one area of focus for both our private foundation and the Community Foundation of Broward Fund. Myself personally, I was, and I still am, on the board of the Humane Society of Broward County. So I served as chair for 4 years. So that is near and dear to my heart. I've been on the board for decades.
Okay.
I'm just going to leave it at that.
Okay.
So a very long time, and great organization, and support what they do. And then when I came to the Community Foundation, there's so many other animal rescue groups and areas to get involved in there. I've about 5 years ago started to get more involved in our homeless situation here in Broward County. And so attainable housing, affordable housing is something that is important, the environment. So we don't necessarily have a singular focus, or it's got to fit into this bucket or that bucket. So as far as both Private Foundation and the Community Foundation Fund, my sister and I, we sit around and we say, hey, what do you like? What do you think? And I have to sell her my ideas. She has to sell me her ideas. And for the most part, we agree.
How does the Community Foundation of Broward take some of the load off the Hudson Family Foundation? How have they helped you accomplish your goals?
Our personal family foundation, the Hudson Family Foundation, was started in 1999. And our first fund at the Community Foundation of Broward was in 2004. And we were not actively managing our fund here at the Community Foundation at the time. We were helping out a few programs, One Broward and others. And the Community Foundation has evolved over time as well. And so in 2018 is when we made the commitment to become community builders. And I was on the board at the time. I don't remember if I was chair at the time, but I did serve as chair for 2 years, which were fabulous. I enjoyed every minute of it. But our commitment to the Community Foundation of Broward through that endowed fund, purpose of that was in perpetuity, right? Forever, for good forever.
Right.
So now we use the Hudson Family Fund at the Community Foundation of Broward for different initiatives. And we look to the experts, the philanthropy experts here at the Community Foundation of Broward to help guide us in those initiatives, to do the research. They do the follow-up, quarterly reports, and yearly reports. So we know that our funding is going for the best good of the community and those initiatives that we're funding.
Do you feel like you've got an extended family here?
So that's really personal because, like I said, I sat on the board for 7 years. I was chair for 2 years. We've had our funds here. My sister was on the board back in 2010, I rolled off the board. She's back on the board. So it truly is a family affair. Right. And I went through the transition of the CEO. So yes, the Community Foundation of Broward has a very near and dear place in my heart.
Family keeps coming up over and over again. Is that where you learned the whole concept? I know you did the work hard, play hard, but giving and philanthropy is something separate from that. And the level of giving that your family has been involved in is bold, to be sure. Did that start with your father? Did it go back to your grandparents? Where did that come from?
I would say it started really with my parents, and my grandfather immigrated from Holland with wooden shoes, literally. So I am, a product of that American dream. And I was settled in Chicago and got into the carting business, which was a fancy way of saying, garbage business. So early on, throughout my family, giving was important, giving back, because they had nothing to begin with. So that's always been instilled within us. My parents, also my aunt and my uncle, were very generous throughout Broward County and throughout the country and the world, really. So it really is a family affair. We talked about business and, what Hudson Capital does, and then we've kind of moved on to philanthropy, and the family aspect of that is, you give of your time and your treasures. And I get asked a lot how I have enough time for all I do, being on countless boards that you don't get paid for. Right. And some of them are business, and that helps out on the business end of it. But it's the commitments like here at the Community Foundation, the time that I spent on the board, that were truly rewarding and fulfilling. And so you can't put a value on that.
What was it about being on the board here that was so fulfilling? Was it the projects you worked on, seeing the change in areas that were important to you? Was it the people that you worked with?
It's all of that.
Okay.
It truly is. The staff at the Community Foundation is unbelievable, committed, knowledgeable, and relatively small staff for the amount of good that this organization is able to do. And I've been asked to be on several different boards, and they're all great causes, and they're all worthy causes. I came to the Community Foundation of Broward and the board here because of their wide breadth and how many organizations that they touch and have access to, and the true difference that being involved that I could make here at the Community Foundation of Broward.
There's another way that you are making a big difference in South Florida, in Broward County. You were appointed in 2019 to be part of the Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission. Tell me about your love of the environment and why that is something that you gladly accepted.
So how long do we have?
For you, we have all the time in the world.
So it was quite an honor to be appointed by the Governor DeSantis to the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. And I'm not correcting you, but just that conservation is such a huge piece of what it is and what we do. And so when you start talking about terms, as we do here at the Community Foundation of Broward, forever, right? Endowments, and they last in perpetuity. And so I love my time, my fellow commissioners, and the important work we do for Florida and our environment. At my first meeting, I tell the story a lot, but my first meeting, we talked about elephants.
Okay.
And I said, well, okay, how does that pertinent? But we talk about everything from panthers to bears to invasive species, if it's pythons or lionfish, coral reefs to, bears. It just, there's so much. We have such a diverse environment here in Florida. And even born and raised here, I didn't realize how much there was. Everything from the Indian River Lagoon and the issues they're having up there with the manatees. And there's just so much. And so being able to help and be a part of mapping out the roadmap for Florida and how to deal with the migration that's happening, which is a great thing, but it's a balance.
Yes.
I have my one hat where I'm a developer, and the other hat I'm the conservationists trying to make sure that we preserve lands for future generations and in perpetuity.
That is so important, to have a developer who understands the importance of conservation. And that really sets you apart. The fact that conservation matters to you as a builder, and you'll take that into account when you are doing your projects, such as Huizenga Park, and turning it into a beautiful space for the residents of Broward County and visitors to enjoy.
Absolutely. And as pertinent to the park, one of the things that we did as the board, and I jumped on and helped spearhead, we decided that that park would be a park in perpetuity. And, up until now, it has not been. So if there was another DDA board, they could say, well, we're going to sell that parcel to a high rise. It's probably worth $60 million. And so the board has committed to keeping that park in perpetuity.
Can I thank you? I would like to thank you for
Absolutely.
that. That is so, I've got the chills. It's such a good thing to hear that we will always have Huizenga Park and that beautiful green space in downtown Fort Lauderdale.
So the environment is important, not just to me, but then now down to my kids. They love the water. They love where they live. They're beach bums. My son loves surfing and diving. My daughter's, the sun worshiper at the beach. But growing up with this as their backdrop, they do understand the environment and the important role it plays. They were involved with other students of theirs in a program called the Extra Catch. And this came about through family friends. But in essence, it was, if you're going to go diving or fishing, and you may not catch anything, but if you see plastic or fishing line, go pick it up. And that's your, quote, extra catch. And you're doing something good for the environment. And so they've arranged beach cleanups, and we've done educational videos. We've partnered with MODS, with the Museum of Discovery and Science. And so that involvement has taught them not only how important the environment is, but also leadership skills and getting other people involved. And that's been truly rewarding for them. But as parents, yeah, that's a pretty rewarding thing.
Yeah, most definitely. Wait until you hear them being interviewed for the podcast. Then you'll be proud.
Excellent. Indeed, I shall.
So let's pretend for a minute that the listeners today are your children. What advice would you give to them that would inspire them to take bold action and think long term? Because that's one of the beautiful things I keep hearing over and over again. In perpetuity, long term, you're thinking about the future, regardless of whether you are part of it or not, whether you're here or not. You still want Broward to be a wonderful place. How do you inspire other people to have that kind of vision?
That's a really good question. Yes, I talk about perpetuity, and I won't be here to see it. And that's great. Right? How do you inspire more people to think long term and not just consumption today?
Yeah, who are the Henry Flaglers,
Yeah. And I don't have the answer, but I can kind of dance around it maybe.
Okay.
I think that, having good role models and being connected to your community, so it's important. And people feel that sense of community and that sense of pride. But it does go farther than that. How do you get kids to stop taking plastic water bottles and, clean up this or do the beach cleanups and all of that sort of thing? And it just evolves. It obviously comes from the top somewhere, whether it's your parents, your grandparents, a role model.
Is there advice you could give listeners who want to be involved and want to step up? How do they start?
They started the Community Foundation of Broward. And I say that a little tongue-in-cheek, but the fact is that the Community Foundation of Broward, they are the philanthropy experts in Broward. And all their efforts are in Broward. And they have the pulse of the different organizations that are here, what the community needs. The Community Foundation of Broward is very nimble. So at the start of the pandemic, okay, well, how do we help the community? Who needs what? Where can we deploy our resources? And, whether it's that or a hurricane or, different things that are going on in the community. So it's getting involved and finding the right people to help you and get you involved.
What does being bold mean to you?
I was on the board when we decided to have a capital campaign that would be a huge goal, right? And so we started at 200 million, 300. So we settled at 500 million. And somebody said, well, that's really bold. And that evolved into the Be Bold campaign here at the Community Foundation of Broward, and to raise 500 million for our 40th anniversary, which is in 2024. And so bold. When we sat around the conference table and said, we're going to go out and try to raise $500 million, that was pretty bold. Yeah. And so I said, well, if you don't hit that goal, well, 450 is pretty good too. So we have any intention of hitting that goal. But being bold is doing something that people are going to look at you and maybe scratch their head and go, that's bold. That's out there. But I think you can do it.
Let's leave on this thought. What would you say to inspire other philanthropists to take the lead and to give the same as you're doing?
I don't feel that I'm quite the inspirational character, but I will say that it's getting involved and it's finding something that you're passionate about, that you want to see a change. And you can't change the world in a day or a month, but you've got to be part of that change. And as far as the inspiration, so here's an inspirational message that a good friend of mine told me years ago, and he said, this is more of a business term, but if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And the fact of the matter is that it's just the same as vote. I don't care who you vote for, but just go out and vote. You can't sit back and be critical or want change without actually getting involved and being that change maker.
You certainly are that. And what makes you inspirational is the fact that you don't think you are. Your coming here to the Community Foundation of Broward is a gift in itself. You and your sister at the Hudson Family Foundation are a gift to Broward County. And the Community Foundation of Broward takes you all together and wraps you in this beautiful package that shows a bright future for Broward County. And I want to thank you for your visionary thinking, for being able to imagine and reimagine Broward County in a safe, environmentally conservative way that will keep it thriving for years and years to come. Steve Hudson, President and CEO of the Hudson Capital Group, also with the Hudson Family Foundation and a community builder here at the Community Foundation of Broward. One more time, if you would like to be part of helping to reimagine, to rebuild Huizenga Park, you can go to huizengapark.org, take a look at the plans, get involved, because that's what community is all about. And if you have any questions about the work that the Community Foundation of Broward does, just go to cfbroward.org and join us again for our next episode of Bold Voices with the Community Foundation of Broward.
Ellen, thanks so much. Great to be here.
Absolutely.
A lot of fun.
Pleasure. Absolutely. Great to meet you. Before we close out Bold Voices today, we want to spend a moment in Kirk's Corner. Kirk Engelhardt is the Vice President of Marketing and Communications for the Community Foundation of Broward. Kirk, what are some of your thoughts on what we just heard from Steve Hudson?
Well, first thing is, how great is Steve Hudson?
He's like a native born and bred in Broward County, and he loves this community.
Mr. Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah,
I'll call him Mr. Fort Lauderdale. Yeah. Well, one thing that he did point out in the interview was he mentioned his family foundation, the Hudson Family Foundation, and we work directly with his family foundation and a lot of family foundations. And people wonder, well, how does that work with the Community Foundation? How do these two things,
how do foundations,
how do these two puzzle pieces fit together?
Right.
Well, there's many different ways that can happen, but just a couple of them, and that particularly relate to Steve's situation. His family found it tough to identify those big community issues and the organizations working in those issues and how they themselves would be able to tackle that. So, vetting those nonprofits and really doing a lot of that back office work and the research has been a huge help to them. And another thing is with the professional grant making that we have here at the Community Foundation, that's a huge support. And it's a lot of administrative work to run a family foundation, and we help out with that and alleviate that burden so family foundations, have money they can give away and enjoy the giving part.
Right, without having to deal with all of the burdens of the details behind the scenes.
Exactly. So if anybody wants any more information about that, they can visit our website at cfbroward.org, and we'll be happy to have a conversation.
Thank you, Kirk.
Thank you for listening to Bold Voices. We hope you've enjoyed this episode and hope you'll be inspired to join us in creating a better Broward for all. If you'd like more information, visit us online at cfbroward.org, and remember to always be bold.